Hi everyone, welcome to this video. My name is T if you're new here, and happy Pride Month. Yes. Happy Pride to lesbians, queer women or non-binary people of any kind, and even straight women who get 2 sips of liquor in them and start wanting to take off tops and kiss on the mouth. Y'all really need to unpack that, but this month is for you too. We know Netflix be on that bullshit, right? From like January to April, and then again from about August to December, Netflix just be getting washed by every other streaming service. But then when we get to the summertime, when we get to this time of year and we have that little run of Love is Blind and then Bridgerton and then Selling Sunset and now The Ultimatum, redemption is in full effect. It is whack-a-doodle time. Oh yes, it is time for the pots to call the kettles black, for us to cackle at chaos, to delight in debauchery. So if you don't know, the concept of the ultimatum is as follows. 5 long-term couples come in. In every couple, there is one partner who has issued an ultimatum. Marry me or move on. But before they decide if they're gonna marry, the couples break up and then everyone gets to mingle for about a week. After that, people get to choose a trial spouse with whom they will live with for the next 3 weeks. After that, the original couples are reunited, and then they must make the ultimate decision of whether or not they want to get engaged, break up, or run off with the new person they met on the show. Now, I don't know if y'all remember the last video I did on the ultimatum, but I really did not like this show. I didn't find it funny. I didn't find it entertaining. I really just found it annoying. But then again, I'm also extremely annoyed at the thought of young people trying to force the success of heteronormative monogamous commitments by way of fear and fairy tales. We have read that boring chapter already. So I was like, yeah, this show was kind of one and done. If Netflix brings it back, I'm really good on it. But then they decided to bring in the queers. They decided to gay up the place against my wishes. But as a junior resident lesbian working my way up to my queer PhD, of course I had to watch, for my studies. And boy, oh boy, the tears, the anger, the confusion, the finger. One small intimate moment between Rae and Vanessa, one giant catastrophe, uncontroversy for queer womankind. Netflix really loaded the clip with this one, and yeah, we have to discuss. Obviously, today we'll be tapping into the oh-so-debatable topics of marriage and intimacy and love bombing, pretty much just like we did the last time I talked about this show. The last time, I'm not exaggerating when I say it was a challenge. From every angle, the show, the video, the comments, every single thing was a struggle, except for the LELO toy. Speaking of, the first time I worked with LELO, they introduced me to their Sela cruise. And to this day, this is one of my favorite toys of all time. One of the first things LELO told me about Sela Cruise was that it had 8 different modes and cruise control technology, which means that it increases intensity when pressed harder against the body. And I said, okay. But when it actually did, when the toy actually did what it said it was going to do, I said, oh, me and you are going to be great friends. And indeed, this toy has absolutely withstood the test of time. I thought I had seen the best of the best, but when it comes to LELO, you know they gotta keep innovating and raising the bar. A few months later, I was introduced to the Enigma Cruise. In addition to cruise control technology, this is a dual action toy. The powerful sonic waves provide a suction-like massager externally and rumbly vibrations internally. Aside from being cute as hell, best of all, both these toys are made from body-safe silicone, which makes them last extremely long with good care and frequent cleaning after each use. LELO is always aiming to bring empowering and innovative toys to the self-pleasure space, so be sure to check the link in my description or visit the link on screen to check out their all-new Dot Cruise, as well as their amazing queer staff curated Pride Month collection. And of course, thank you to LELO for sponsoring this portion of today's video. Again. Chapter 1. You may now dismiss the bride. A very, very important piece of information that I recently learned was that this show was actually filmed in 2021. And according to Rae, they hadn't even seen the first Ultimatum yet when they started filming. This information, it doesn't change too much, but it is pretty useful to keep in mind. Like, when these people came on this show, they had absolutely no idea what they were really walking into. I mean, I'm sure Netflix briefed them on what the show would be about, but they had no clue how it was gonna look in the end or how it was gonna be received. Nothing. And I think that is bananas, but it also explains a lot. Okay, so let's talk about the couples who we met in episodes 1 and 2 before they were sent off to go live with somebody else. Starting with Yoly and Mal. At the time of filming, both Yoly and Mal were 34 years old. They had been together for 3 years, and Yoly was the one who issued the ultimatum. Now, first things first, Mal is fine as fuck. Fine as fuck. When I was watching this show and I saw how Yoly was moving, I was like, girl, stop playing. If you don't stop playing and let my Pookie go, send her back home. Because me and the kids miss her. Let me be serious. And I have to lead with this statement, and I put it in bold. I have to lead with this statement because when I was writing this video, I was like, damn, why am I not being as critical of Mal as I am the other contestants? Like, I really ain't got nothing bad to say about Mal. What is up with that? I was just thinking with my dick. Or, I guess that's not the best choice of words for today, but I was definitely thinking with something in that region. So I am being forthcoming with all of this to aid you in your reception of the video. Either I'm gonna be too easy on Mal, because I think they fine, or I'm gonna be too hard on Mal, because I think they fine, and I'm trying to overcompensate for my bias. You decide. Now back to the couple, Yoly and Mal. Niggas do not like each other. Mal read Yoly for absolute filth when she said, you fall in love wherever you water the grass at. Oh my gosh. It was such a subtle read, but so, I don't know, like I'm in between whether or not I think that really needed to be said. It is Mal's truth to tell that she doesn't feel special amongst Yoly's lineup of past lovers. But at the same time, it planted a seed of doubt in me as a viewer so that when Yoly went off to live with her trial partner, I struggled to trust the authenticity of that connection, even though it was quite intense. In addition to Mal not feeling super confident in Yoly's love for them, based on the way Yoly described Mal, it seems like they are a very logical lover, which I relate to so heavily. I feel like, okay, so everybody knows that romantic love is illogical, right? Because the shit just don't make sense. What you have to be willing to do, what you have to be willing to sacrifice, it's like you have to bend and you have to be this infinitely malleable being to sustain romantic love for a lifetime. And in no other area of life, except for maybe parenthood, are we expected to accept that. That's why they call it magic when it actually works out. When it works out and, you know, not too many people didn't get hurt, oh my gosh, it was magic. That's why. So when you're a very logical person and it comes time to step out of the utopia of the kissing and the loving and the fucking and the right? And you actually have to think deeply about how your love fits into the logic of your life. Real questions have to be asked. How are we gonna afford this house you wanna live in? How are we gonna pay for this in vitro that you're trying to begin? How are we gonna fund the college that you want our kids to go to? Yoly and Mal were never gonna work, and this was a declaration I made before I even knew what the ending was. Because Yoly either did not want to ask those questions or she didn't care to, because she didn't care what the answers were. She expected their love to carry them through. And the fact that their values were so oppositely positioned in this context, was it ever gonna work? I think these opposing values have built resentment in them both, but I think Mal expressed it way more. And don't worry, because Yoly's whooping is coming. But it brings me back to my first point. I think Mal was being kind of mean, but in like a passive way, because we were so distracted by how emotionally intelligent this person was and how well they communicated their feelings and whatnot. We ain't even slide past like, There's a queer pleasure coach on TikTok. I think her name is Whitney, but I'll list her handle on the screen. So she brought up the point that Mal took several digs at Yoly throughout the show, and that shows signs of contempt, aka a very commonly cited reason for divorce. First with the Yoly loves wherever she waters the grass comment, and then when they went to the bar and someone posed a question to the entire group, like, what are the things about your trial spouse that you dislike? And Xander was like, I don't really have anything. By the way, Xander is Yoly's trial spouse. Then yeah, I don't really have anything. And Mal was really pushing to get something negative about Yoly out of Xander's mouth.
Give me some shit about Yoly. You don't have to be scared. You can run her tea. But if you don't have anything, that's okay. But I kind of feel like you might. And I feel like you're a little scared to say something. Wait, about Yoly? Yeah. Are you kidding me? With all of Yoly's quirks and all her little sass and her like smart ass mouth, like, spill the tea, sis.
Almost as if they wanted to use shit talking about Yoly as a bonding activity. Because had Xander said something mean in that moment, what else were we supposed to do? Mal probably would have agreed, maybe made a couple more comments, and then how would that have looked? Enough on them for now. On to Lexi and Rae. At the time of filming, Rae is 27 and Lexi is 24. 24. Now this was another thing about the straight ultimatum that really used to drive me up a wall, because I was like, why do they have these literal children? Nevertheless, Lexi issued Rae the ultimatum after dating for nearly 3 years. Rae is one of the more reserved contestants. Like, you're not gonna hear Rae be like, okay, here's what I'm doing, here's what I'm thinking, here's why I'm thinking it. You're not gonna hear all of that. She's kind of just there. Rae's kind of like that one Mr. Krabs meme. She was just hanging on for dear life. My loose assumption of Rae is she was happy in her situation. She was very in love with Lexi and they were comfortable. But because of her personal relationship with the concept of marriage, not the concept of being with Lexi, her relationship with the concept of marriage did not seem like a confident one.
We grew up envisioning this like picturesque, like running down the street, like screaming the I love you and like, oh, that's my person. But like, I don't know if that exists for me.
I don't know why y'all hated her for that. I don't know why y'all called her childish for that and selfish for that. But I think this hits so close to home for me because I kind of share similar sentiments about motherhood. And the first thing people come yapping in your ears, oh, it'll never be perfect. You'll never really be ready. So just do it. Baby, that's not good enough for me. Maybe Rae ain't taking it that far, but at least somewhere in the mix, I think she and I share some commonalities with her relationship with marriage. She's not awful for thinking that way, but it does suck that she was with someone who viewed it completely differently. Now Lexi. Po baby just want to be chose. Po baby just wants to be a wife. My thing with Lexi.
You're young, right?
Yeah, I'm 24.
You're 24. You gave the ultimatum. Mm-hmm. Okay, so you are ready.
I'm ready.
You are ready to go at 24.
Yeah.
It's unsettling to me. It is upsetting my tummy because frontal lobe ain't even fully developed. Definitely, absolutely can't even rent a car without still getting a youthful driver surcharge. And I'm willing to bet at the time of filming was still on her parents' health insurance. This person wants to make a commitment for the rest of their life. And I don't buy it.
Once you realize you're gay, it's like, oh, you don't have that pressure. But then suddenly gay marriage is legal and then you've got a partner and then you have this idea of like sapphic love and then you get all this like sort of, oh, like, you know, marriage is on the table. So it's sort of like, at first it's like, oh yeah, I don't have that pressure. But then I had a partner who did very much want that. And then suddenly when I was confronted with that, I'm like, oh, actually, this isn't what I want. Oh, wait, I'm actually suddenly experiencing that pressure that I never thought I would experience, like that I saw, you know, straight people experience. I felt like I always thought like, oh, like being gay, you don't have that pressure. And then suddenly you're presented with that pressure. I was like, oh, actually, you know what? That's not what I want. And that's okay. I hope that made sense. Sorry.
No, it absolutely did. And you made a great point about gay marriage being legal. Like, this is a new thing in our lifetimes, whereas non-queer people, marriage has always been a thing before they were even here. So I think just the possibility even opening up for us also puts the pressure on the table.
Thinking about Lexi, like at first she had me because I was like, oh, this girl, she's young, but she seems really sure of herself. But that was just like, the stubbornness that comes with being a young adult. And again, thinking you have things figured out, because what was immature about her decision-making skills in that moment was like, you can clearly see that Rae's like, I don't know who I am. I don't know what I want. I don't know if I want this. I don't know, like, that's not when you press, something like marriage. It seemed like she was just kind of steamrolling over her in that moment. But again, I don't see that as like something to demonize her for. It was just, kind of the disillusionment of just figuring out who this person actually is and what their motivations are.
When I was younger, in my earlier 20s, I was definitely on the relationship escalator a lot of the time. There were several serious relationships I was in where I thought, oh, this is just supposed to end marriage. I thought that was the point of dating. At this point, I don't know that I see myself getting married. I don't think that it's necessary. But I will say that I think that in the case of someone like Lexi, who is young and has, her eye on the prize about something like marriage, or did at the time, even though it is very serious, we still have to let people make mistakes. Villainizing reality stars is so easy and fun because we're watching them make the mistakes that we might be doing in the privacy of our own lives.
We have Vanessa and Xander. At the time of filming, both Xander and Vanessa were 30 years old, and they were together for 4 years before Xander issued the ultimatum to Vanessa. So here's my thing. Xander has admitted that they don't think they will ever love someone the way they loved Vanessa. And that's actually a common sentiment you hear across the show, even though... And my take on that is, in many instances, queer love really be feeling like luck, especially when you have such a unique and quirky love story like Xander's and Vanessa's. Their high school boyfriends were best friends, and then they bumped into each other one day at a taco truck, and then they fell in love, and then they were together for 4 years. Like, give me a break. Something like that only really happens in like young adult fiction, but in real life it only happens through like perfect fate and divine timing. So when you combine the external battles of living in a homophobic world, and of course the internal battles of self-acceptance, in combination with all the other shit you gotta go through in life, separate, or I should say sexuality aside, by the time you actually find someone with whom you can share and sustain love, naturally you're like, okay, yeah, this must be my forever. And it sounds to me like Xander said, okay, I got lucky, I want to lock this in. And then their partner Vanessa was like, oh, I got lucky, I bet I can do it again with someone else. Let's talk about Vanessa.
Chaotic.
Careless.
Actress.
Complex.
Messy.
Intense.
I'm just going to give the letter I and leave it on the table.
Vanessa comes on the screen and you immediately know that this show was trying to designate her as the villain. And very soon after you find out, she was not gonna make it all that hard.
I recognize that you don't like me. You're trying to find every way not to like me. But I just feel like when I get bored, I'm like, Xander has been saying she might be asexual and that I'm the only one that she could have feelings for. Now, cheers to our trial marriage. Bye, friends. Bye. See you soon. I hope. I don't want permanency and I don't want stability. I want freedom.
I think Vanessa is a clear case of delayed sapphic development. And that's why I'm trying not to go too hard on her age. Because yeah, you can be a 30-year-old person, but only like, let's say, a 5-year-old self-proclaimed lesbian or queer person, because I think Vanessa identifies as pan. That's something I think a lot of straight people fail to understand. Like, many queer people, we didn't get the chance to start exploring romance at like age 15 and 16 and shit like y'all did. Some of the shit we're just getting introduced to in our mid to late 20s, y'all was already doing at the fucking prom. That being said, while I imagine it was very nice and blissful for Vanessa to fall in and sustain love at one of her very first attempts at queer romance, I can understand why there's a sense of FOMO there. There's still an entire queer world out there that's left unexplored. But it seems like most people's gripe with Vanessa, and my gripe too, was that she seemingly came all the way on the show just to have her wicked gal summer. And all with the comfort that Xander was not going to be doing the same. And that's effed up.
Vanessa, my feelings around her are complex, and I think she's a very complex person, as are we all. And the things that I saw as flags, like I really did not enjoy, nor like the whole discourse around Xander not finding anyone else outside of her. But you were kind of looking at this as an opportunity to sleep around with other people. So like not really ethical polyamory. But that aside, I thought that she really did internalize what was being said about her, and saw some things that she didn't like within herself. And after rewatching it a second time, and after seeing her father, which answered a lot of questions for me, it seemed like she kind of had a come to Jesus moment and was like, oh, I'm using laughter and jokes as a way to like mask. And I'm actually, it's a deflection and defense mechanism, but it's something that triggers other people, understandably so. And I don't think a narcissist would sit there and even remotely take the time to reflect on any of it. She just seemed like a hurt person who unfortunately has to realize like you probably were in large part the reason why that relationship didn't work out. And that sucks, especially on national and like global television. It's just a hard truth to swallow.
I still can't designate Vanessa as the villain, and let me tell you why. Vanessa's personality is already one that I personally gotta take in doses. But especially with her being opposite of someone like Xander, awful PR. Terrible marketing for Vanessa's personality. Vanessa is loud, rambunctious, outspoken. Xander is not. Like at all. On top of that, Xander has this like resting puppy dog face that you just, like you just can't be mean to it. You can't hate it, you can't be mean to it. On top of it, Xander has this personality that you just want to be gentle with and you want to be protective of. And Vanessa don't got that. None of that. And it sucks that people got so wrapped up in their adoration for Xander or their loyalty to Lexi or their fondness of Yoly that they refuse to extend Vanessa any grace at all. Because I think she deserves a little. Vanessa did actually make a repair attempt, not just with Xander, but with everyone. Now, if you dislike her, I can see why that attempt would come off as disingenuous, but you know, maybe it was, but I actually think that her writing that letter of apology, especially reading it in front of a group that she knows was not the fondest of her, if she was as self-centered as people are painting her to be, because I feel like someone who truly lacks self-awareness would be like, okay, whatever, fuck it. They hate me because they hate me. Not at all considering that, oh, maybe my actions are disrespecting and hurting people. You see, you look at Aussie, whose actions also embarrassed and hurt people in this process. You look at Xander, who also broke their promise that they wouldn't be sexually intimate with anyone during this process. You look at Yoly, who by the looks of things was living a double life on and off the show. To have played in Mal's face like that, especially when they went to the group outing after the original couples reunited, it was the exchange of the glances and the I love yous and with Xander. It was that for me. As Mal was stood there completely unaware, just like a mere, 30 feet away? Oh, it was that for me. The lack of consideration is beyond me.
Yoly's the villain. I'm sorry. This actually goes into why I was saying the best thing that I found about the show was the dialogue was dialoguing. Like, no matter how manipulative these people were, they knew how to communicate. Like, they were talking. Even Yoly, she told on herself because she kept saying a bunch of things that, you want to sound cute, like, oh, she's trying to play both sides, keep Mal there, keep Xander, invested. And she's saying all these great words, I can tell she's probably been in therapy before, using these great terms to communicate how she feels, but ultimately it's just like smoke and mirrors. Like, so for her to then, act like she didn't know what was going on in Hawaii, like, girl, you don't forget planning a whole trip to Hawaii. You know what I mean? Y'all not even supposed to be in Hawaii right now.
So when Mal was saying, after reflecting on this experience and this show, you are stranger danger.
So where are you now?
Happily broken up. We can see throughout the ultimatum that your history of being honest doesn't track.
I was like, yes, drag her right by them edges, drag her by that damn yucky ponytail. Did anybody else catch that stupid ass ponytail? Because I was like, not the Arianka.
Yoly and all the other people I mentioned, they ain't make no apologies. They ain't write no letters. I'm still open to the possibility of Vanessa's apology being performative, but I would rather have believed her and given her the benefit of the doubt and be proved wrong than for her actions to have actually been genuine and not have been receptive to that. Because that's harsh. Okay, moving on. Mildred and Tiff. At the time of filming, Mildred was 33 and Tiff was 32. Mildred issued Tiff the ultimatum after dating for nearly 2 years. Immediately no. Immediately no. I've seen what I needed to see. The way we let in with this whole, oh, this is the sexy couple. Introducing Mildred and Tiff, and if you couldn't guess it already, they fuck. Honestly, the sexual elements as a whole in this show, I'm really struggling with it. I feel like they showed sex a lot more in this version than they did the heterosexual version. And there's upsides and downsides to that. It's awesome that we were able to have queer-centered conversations about sex. Everyone understands the heteronormative definition of sex and the mechanics of it, right? But even in big 2023, there is still an embarrassingly large population of grown adults who have centered that as the sole definition of sex. So they are genuinely confused about how any of this shit is working. And I really appreciate how on this show they had very candid conversations about it. Though some of those conversations were very heated and emotional, there was still discussion about what sex means to these individual queer people. And they were had without ever centering the ignorance or curiosity of the heterosexual gaze. The conversations were had without centering the heterosexual gaze. Everything else, however,
how did we feel about the sexual element of the show? Because I thought it was too fucking much. But maybe I'm just being prudish.
Not being prudish at all. That was one of my first or second comments in like the second episode. I was just like, do I need to go back and watch the straight ultimatum again? Because I don't remember this being like so sexualized. And that's where it comes back to that like heteronormative gaze, specifically the cis male heteronormative gaze, where it's like we just talking about having intimacy, having sex, when we haven't even heard these women talk about their boundaries.
One night, Vanessa and Rae shared an intimate moment that involved Vanessa's hand and Rae's body. And everyone took issue with it. Just about everyone who knew about it took issue with it. So Rae felt guilty, Lexi was disappointed, Mal was inconvenienced, Yoly disapproved, and of course, Aussie was just trying to get the fuck out of there. Now mind you, these people was on there. Okay? I already told you the sexual element in this show was a lot, too much. But with Vanessa, it was a problem. And I think that's because Vanessa walked in trying to make this her wicked gal summer. Meaning whatever she did with Rae was gonna happen regardless. It really didn't matter who she was paired with. As long as the attraction was there, she was gonna go for it. But when paired specifically with someone like Rae, who seemed so uncomfortable during the whole show, like it just seemed like she was trying to keep her head above water, now it starts feeling weird. Rae is a grown-ass woman, and I am not going to use her timid nature to infantilize her. She knew what she was doing, she said it was a consensual act, and I am not trying to challenge that aspect at all. But considering Vanessa admittedly had no romantic or sexual feelings for Rae, she was just getting frisky for the sake of being frisky, and Rae was clearly just trying her best to go with the flow, it makes it weird for us, the audience. Like, selfishly it does, because what are we supposed to do with this? And that was the tale of the infamous finger, truly made into a much bigger deal than it ever needed to be, and that's just that.
Yeah, no, it was weird, man. I feel like I kind of vaguely recall the first ultimatum, but one thing I remember about it was that they didn't do a whole lot of the sex stuff. And then also just like, again, the way they spoke about it, I really agree with the comment on Rae, because like she seemed like A, she didn't want to be there, B, she felt really weird about everything. There was intoxication levels involved. Like, it just felt like we don't need to be digging into this again and again and again.
Is there a reason why you fucked Rae? Oh, I'm sorry. Rae fucked you. No. And there was penetration. I'm really surprised she told you. Then maybe your frustration is that Rae told you. My frustration is with all of it. All I'm trying to say here, Vanessa, is that you ended up with your fingers inside of the person I came here with. Okay, this makes you sound really bad, Lexi. And
Did she penetrate you?
led my hand to her vagina. And I do not want to say, I never wanted to fucking say, but that is what happened. And you were like, all right.
Yes,
and I go.
I said, all right. And I feel so bad for Rae because everyone's talking about it except Rae. You know, why is Lexi going on about it? Why is Lexi pushing Vanessa to it was almost like she was trying to like push her into talking about it. I felt like at that dinner scene, I'm sure this will come out later, like they're all dogpiling onto Vanessa, and it's just like everyone is talking about this except for Rae. Like, does Rae want us to, you know, drag this thing out? And yeah, and I'm like, yeah. So
yeah, and especially with it being Rae's body, you have this very shy and timid partner, and the entire world is going to be focused on someone literally entering her and the morals around that, and too much for me.
The discomfort I felt was not just because Vanessa has the type of quirks that I personally have to take in doses. It's because Vanessa's aggression paired with Rae's extreme reservation, it just made the whole thing weird as fuck. And I have to call it aggression and not just being too forward or something like that. Because if it was a masculine presenting woman doing that, if it was a black woman doing that, if Mal was pushing up on Rae like that, what would y'all have been saying about her right now? So yeah, aggression. Vanessa was too aggressive.
There were several times throughout the entire show that I felt like they were reminding us that the intended audience was not really us, like queer sapphic people. It was more of that like kind of like Love Simon type audience. Like, it's for straight people to develop more empathy towards sapphic people. And that part of that was sensationalizing, drawing people in with a little bit more like risque depictions of sexuality on screen.
We weren't 5 minutes into getting to know Mildred and Tiff before we saw them lights down low, lingerie on, candles burning. We were hardly halfway through the first episode when they sexualized the fuck out of Lexi, which really upset me because we didn't even get a chance to hear what Xander thought about Lexi, because they were just editing it to be like, oh, look at Lexi with her big juicy boobies. Who cares about the conversation? Boobies.
About Lexi is that she has this amazing.
I don't know what this show's editing team looks like, but I have a pretty good guess. So it makes me wonder, were these queer women talking about, joking about, and having sex way more than the people on the other ultimatum? Or was this show just putting more of a focus on it because, you know, girls on film? Yeah, next up we have Aussie and Sam. Sam is 31 and Aussie is 42. At the time of filming, they were dating for 1.5 years before Sam issued the ultimatum. To tell you the truth, I don't have much to say about this couple other than I love Sam. I hate that she did not get the fullness of this experience like some other cast members, because if anyone deserved it, it was her. She was like one of the sweetest and most open contestants on the show, and she really just got the shit end of the stick every which way. As I mentioned, for the trial marriage, Sam was paired with Tiff. Tiff was not attracted to Sam, and it was so obvious. And my thing is, how was something supposed to grow from that? Especially when we know Tiff had just got out of a situation where physicality was clearly a huge value. Sam just couldn't catch a break, and you know she deserved one after being with Aussie. Now, Aussie. I'm purposefully not going to do too much on Aussie because Aussie's shortcomings when it comes to communication and confrontation and emotional expression, it's not just a matter of stubbornness. It's so obvious that it is deeply rooted. Deeply rooted. So that's about it on Aussie for now. I think you can extend compassion for someone's struggles and still not ignore the harm that it's causing others. Chapter 2. Live, laugh, love bomb. Once the original couple separate, they go into a trial marriage with a partner of their choosing. This is the disruptor that is pivotal in almost every reality dating show. Just like Casa Amor and Love Island, this is the wild card thrown in the mix that'll either strengthen the faith you have in your love or, more than likely, blow that shit up. Lexi and Mal.
I think that's the scary part because I feel like we are perfect. Yeah, that's like the weird part.
Hardly anything to say here other than I hate that age gap. Hate it real bad. You see Sam and Aussie's age gap, 31 and 42. It's not my favorite, but it is possible that at those ages, those two were experiencing similar things in life. But a 24 and a 36-year-old are not. These two strangers got together and began a 3-week montage of where have you been all my life. Oh, you need more cabinet space for your makeup? Oh, no worries. All I have is my face wash. Don't worry about it, babe. We don't have to argue about it. Let me just walk around and brush my teeth because we're already so comfortable around each other already. Oh, and while we're at it, why don't we practice how we're gonna cuddle tonight? Do you want to be big spoon? You want to be little spoon? We just fit so well together like a hand in a glove. Oh, babe, I love us. Let me tell you something. I don't know if queer women are ever beating the allegations, the love bombing allegations. And you know why I say that? I do this shit too. I don't know. I just can't help it. Like, you give me a woman who I'm attracted to and have an emotional connection with, and like 2 to 3 weeks of unrestricted access to her, my God. Don't even get me started if she's sleeping over. Don't even get me started if she pulled up with a suitcase or I pulled up to her place with one. Oh my goodness. And now we cooking every meal together. Now we going in a grocery store together. Now we splitting household chores. Now we can't even shower by ourselves. I have to marry you. Now you're my wife. I don't know how to explain it. Something in here just switches. So of course, in watching this show, it prompted me to think deeper about the topic of sapphic love bombing.
What is the fastest you've ever fell in love?
I could say 2 weeks.
Oh, I've fallen in love fast. I've fallen in love in like a week, and then like 2 weeks later, I moved to Hawaii and moved in with this woman.
For me, I think the fastest I have ever fallen in love was around 2 weeks also. No. More like 3-ish, 4-ish. Why do you think love bombing happens / why do you think queer women fall in love so quickly, if you believe that they do?
I think another thing that's important to note is that this show facilitates and encourages love bombing. Like the way that it's structured, where they're like, we are going to send you with a person you've met 1 week ago to be trial married. Like they want you to feel that like escalated pace of being in love, and then you add that to the sapphic dynamics that also kind of encourage love bombing, where it was bound to happen. That's what they want from the show. And that they pick their demographic perfectly. Like the sapphics will show up and fall in love, and it's why it was disappointing, but it was unsurprising.
Being in some of my past relationships that I've had, some of them with men, where I feel like I had been love bombed. The comfortability that I feel that I can feel being with a woman where I can relate to you, you understand me in a way that someone that has a different experience than I might not be able to. I think that opens up the door for me to feel like I have a level of comfortability or relatability.
So in my personal experience, I feel like I fall in love very quickly with women, and I think it's very easy to, because kind of like what Sirius was saying, you don't have to educate that partner on what it means to be a woman, or I should say move through the world as a woman or be perceived as a woman. But meeting someone who understands like the nuanced and rarely articulated feelings of one of the most significant identifiers of my humanity, and I don't have to explain a lot. And I feel like straight women or women who partner with men, bless you all, sometimes they accept the life sentence that they may never ever feel understood that deeply by a romantic partner, or they accept that for the rest of their lives they're going to have to educate this person on it. You know what, now that I think of it, do men ever have to educate us on what it's like to be a man? I don't know if they have to undertake that same level of constant explanation the way that we do, but that's neither here nor there. So when you're able to build a bond with someone and you get to skip that introductory phase, it just makes everything better. It makes the conversations better, it makes the dates better, it makes the sex better, even if y'all aren't compatible.
So love bombing. I have had an experience involving, I think, a very classic case of love bombing. I'll say after about the 2-week mark, we were like in love, we were saying I love you, we were just, so in love. And outside you're like, what the fuck? Like, it's completely rational. But when you're in that, when you are primed and when you are love bombed, you will. It's artificial, right? It's an illusion of intimacy, but you are feeling it in that time. So I can totally understand how, Xander and Yoly are, wanting to get married, or how Lexi is just absolutely into Mel. Like,
to wrap up Lexi and Mel, I think that if Mel didn't tell Lexi clearly that sex between them just wasn't the vibe, I don't know if Lexi would have gotten the hint that romance was not in the cards for them. Maybe. Mal and Lexi, you see, they might be compatible to some capacity, but they're not lovers. Live, laugh, love bomb. It was really the perfect recipe for it, but thank goodness Mal had her head screwed on well enough to realize it just wasn't there, or at least not enough for her to leave Yoly. Yoly, however, I can't tell if Yoly and Xander pulled a Mildred and Tiff in the fact that they were humping like rabbits, but there was no depth, or if they pulled Alexi and Mal in that, oh my gosh, you want what I want, and I want what you want, and that also includes having sex. Oh. Or if these two people were actually compatible and meant to be. Am I clinging too tightly to the sapphic love bombing stereotype that I can't give real love its flowers when it's right in front of me? And if so, how come?
I was also listening to a podcast called Decoding Reality, and one of the co-hosts, Daejah, they mentioned that, okay, so when we talk about sapphic love bombing within community, it can be funny. Like, yeah, lesbians or queer women, they go on 3 dates and they already have their future children named, ha ha ha. It's hilarious within community. But then outside community, which this video will inevitably reach, which this show has already reached, it can venture off into hurtful and harmful territory, because it could very easily suggest like, okay, well, if 2 women are involved, who's going to be the rational one? If all this estrogen is here, who's going to get their heads out of the clouds to actually be logical about this? And that takes it from a joke to misogyny and just straight up queerphobia. When they just said that, I'm like, hold on. Maybe I need to like reframe how I speak of this outside of the queer community. Does anyone have any comments?
Yeah, that's a good point. I gotta go listen to that podcast now. With Daejah's comments, I think what's coming up is like, it's infuriating because we don't see a lot of what happens out of love, like what happens in the face of the abundance of love. Like looking at this war in Ukraine, it's just like, this is coming out of hate and fear. What happens when you do have compounded love, like 2 women in a relationship? What happens when our president, vice president, and all the secretaries are women or not cis men?
I think when it comes to who's going to be the rational one, and it can't be both of you, because both of you are women or both of you are emotional. Like, maybe I have a little emotional intelligence and she has some emotional intelligence, and both of us can bring that to each other and we can come to an agreement.
What I'm concerned about is these conversations being hijacked by non-queer people who watch a couple of things that, I don't know if Netflix involved many queer people in this experience. It didn't feel like it. But what I'm concerned about is them hijacking the conversations and thinking that they know how to, ingest what's happening here, and then using that to make conclusions and stereotypes that are harmful. For instance, like there's a stereotype that when you're in a queer relationship, like let's say I'm in a lesbian relationship, I'm with another woman, the love bombing comes because there's the comfortability. We get each other on ways that I probably wouldn't be able to get from a man. But then that could also leave you vulnerable if that person doesn't have the best intentions for you. And that's how we get in situations like with Mildred and Tiff, where domestic violence is there and it's just kind of brushed under the rug because we don't know how to place that. Like it just seemed like they didn't know how to ingest a queer domestic violence situation because they're like, oh, well, they were both born with vaginas, so it's okay. Like it's just scuffling, these just catty drama and all of that stuff, but you're not really taking serious the actual issues that are going on. And it just felt like that throughout the whole show. Like I said, the separation of this show versus the heterosexual relationships, the fact that they didn't really take to task a lot of the manipulation and the abuse emotionally and physically that was going on. So that's my concern. Is like, oh, these are just two lesbians bumping coochies, but there's some real serious things that went on in the show that I just felt like should have been done with more care.
Let's switch gears to Mildred and Aussie. So Mildred, a self-proclaimed feisty Latina, entered into a trial marriage with Aussie, who is the most non-confrontational and avoidant person on this show by far. And I would even say possibly that I've ever witnessed in real life.
I shut down. I'm sorry. I want to go back out, actually. Marriage isn't the thing that I made it out to be. Yeah, you absolutely are.
Cause you see, one thing about It's Who Thanks for Show, that book bag gonna stay packed. And the fact that it's always so bulky, like, Aussie, where are you going? And for how long? Now, to bring back what I was saying about emotional connection and communication, I found that for me, it is far more seamless in queer interactions, in part because women are not socially reprimanded for emotional expression as compared to other genders. Are we belittled for it? Yes. Are we underestimated for it? Absolutely. But are we punished for crying and going through the motions and just feeling in the same way that, let's say, men are? I don't really think so. I don't. But, and I will have my moment of being mildly critical of Aussie in a second, for conversation and diversity's sake only, I think it was somewhat useful for us to see that emotional avoidance is not gendered. It's not limited to people who were assigned male at birth. It's conditional. And that's why queer shows are so important, because it further teaches us that so many of the things that we use to signify differences between genders, sexualities, identities as a whole, they are human-made, bias-made, conditionally made. We are so much more alike than we are different, and we really do humankind a disservice when we limit our understanding of each other to what is between our legs.
I've definitely been there in the past, like Aussie, where things are really hard and I have to take my time, or I have to say, let me step away. But I've learned that for myself, like, I have to make the commitment of, like, let me step away for 10 minutes. Give me 30 minutes, give me till tomorrow, let me sleep on this. Because when I just say I have to walk away and there's just the gap of that, it can be there, it can be up there and stuck there, and then it don't come back down. And now I'm walking around with my head to the sky, like, when is it going to come back down again? I can't speak for anybody else. I can only speak for myself of, like, you have to know when enough is enough. And then it's also really hard because I saw in Aussie, like, clearly a lot of these things that were talked about were, like, very fresh for Aussie to address at that time. Like, we saw Aussie break down and confronting things from Aussie's childhood. It was a lot for us to see as an audience, and I'm sure for Aussie to go through as well. And so I think that being avoidant, it can come with something, it can mean something, but pays a lot to have like support.
You know, I definitely see the value in, I don't know if I would say in being super avoidant, but in definitely taking your time to process your emotions. I'm personally a very confrontational person, and I can respect when a partner is like, I need to properly think about this because I respect you and myself enough that I'm not just gonna say the thing that's at the top of my mind, because that might be disrespectful, that might be wrong, that might be just stupid and not have anything to do with this. But if I can take the time to process it, then that might be more conducive to us finding a solution.
I'm relating to this so much because in my last relationship, was very much the aggressor, for lack of a better word, especially when it came down to confrontation, when it was time to talk about something that was uncomfortable. I felt like up to me to like step into that space, whereas the person I was with just wanted and needed space to process. And reflecting back on it, like, absolutely makes sense, right? Not everyone wants to be super reactive or lean into the very first things that they're feeling. Sometimes they just need space to process it, or just not think about anything, right? Or they run. But for me, it was acknowledging that within that was space for me to grow. And that I also need a cooling off period to show up best as myself, so that I can organize my thoughts and not just lean into the pure fire of my Leo sign. So it was a both and, but I felt so much like sympathy for Aussie.
A lot is coming up. I am easily triggered by people walking out, and this is in romantic and platonic relationships, people walking out, giving me silent treatment or being conflict avoidant. And it's because my mom would get extremely angry and then she just wouldn't talk to me for days. And then all of a sudden she would like give me a letter under my bedroom door and be like, I'm sorry, and this is what's going on, and like, this is why. So any type of avoidance that is like shutting down and becoming silent when there is a moment of tension or conflict, little Taria is triggered. I wouldn't say I'm confrontational. I am really open to sitting and having the conversation. I don't want to be your therapist. I want to be your partner. I want to be in a healthy relationship. I'm deeply spiritual. And I was like, if you're not able to articulate what you're feeling in your body, my whole existence right now as a Black queer woman is embodiment, and not allowing anything or anyone to take me out of my body and make me not feel what my body is feeling. But everything is below the shoulders for me in my day-to-day practice. So to be with someone that is only above the shoulders, so only in their head all day, is so difficult. And that's why I'm scared for Sam too, because I don't know if Sam has said, you need to be in therapy. Are you in therapy? Is Aussie in therapy? Like, those are some of the questions I was hoping the WASP Sweet Magnolia host was going to ask. Like, bitch, what you doing?
Personally, I am a confrontational person. I know that the TikTok psychologists call it an anxious attachment style as compared to an avoidant attachment style. Sure, I'm very confrontational. I do want to be clear that I am not Team Aussie or Team Mildred. I was kind of Team Mildred, but then after the whole reunion thing happened, I was like, oh, she takes it there. Like, what? I've never taken it there. I will never take it there. So let me be clear on that. Turning the page. As a confrontational person myself, one thing that frustrates me though, especially as someone who has tried to fix myself because I genuinely thought that being this way made me a demon of a partner, I've always noticed that when there's conflict, it's the confrontational one who is advised to walk away. We are the ones who are told, give them some space, give them some time to process, because that's the patient and gentle thing to do. But making that the norm and it always being the expectation of the confrontational person to do that, it completely disregards our needs. If confrontational people don't bite our tongues and then give the avoidant person more time to avoid, then we seem like a bully. And no one ever wants to feel like a bully. So then it sends us back into that cycle of, all right, well then let me just avoid some more and then sacrifice my comfort in this situation. And it's really a catch-22 with the whole thing.
I feel like I saw a little bit of myself in Mildred, but then I've also experienced somebody like Mildred at the same time. So what I saw about myself in Mildred is that I've been in relationships with someone where I was Sam, where it was like I have to wait for the perfect time to communicate with this person, and if I don't, they're gonna crumble. But then that time never came, and so I'm just always just internalizing all of my feelings, trying to be the therapist for this partner. And then I got into another relationship where I got out of that. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna voice how I feel, because if I don't, this is gonna fall to the wayside. I need you to hear me no matter what. And so I found myself like interrupting and steamrolling and feeling like I just want to be heard. I also kind of empathize with Mildred in the aspect of just wanting to be heard and having that abandonment issue. But the way she went about it was like off the wall.
Chapter 3, Denial of the Trial.
What are you talking about, Yoly? Do you want to die for you? You want to see both of us fight for you and bleed so you can see like who actually died for me and who didn't? I'm going to pick that person.
And we're back. Everyone has returned from their trial marriages and are now reunited with their original partners, and let me tell you, I was shocked. Because up until then, it was very easy to make assumptions about everyone's intentions and just make these predictions about where things were going. And here were the predictions I had. Okay, so predictions 1 and 2. For Tiff and Mildred and Sam and Aussie is a 2-for-1. I thought they would all want to marry just off the strength that they had such rough experiences with their trial spouses, and they could finally return home to something that was comforting and familiar. Okay. Prediction number 3, starting with Rae. I figured she felt guilty as hell, you know. So she was definitely going back to Lexi, and for Lexi, she was still disappointed in Rae, so I predicted she might want to continue the relationship, but definitely not wanting to get married. Prediction number 4. For Mal, I figured they would be more open to the thought of marriage, especially having been with Lexi, but more than likely with anyone other than Yoly, especially after finding out what went down between Yoly and Xander. And then for Yoly, I was convinced that she was gonna ditch Mal and go, you know, water Xander's grass some more. Predictions number 5, Xander. So they finally had experienced love with someone who knows how to sit down. And for that reason, they no longer wanted Vanessa as a wife. And for Vanessa, I figured she was still not done with her wicked gal summer, so marriage with Xander was the last thing on her mind. Those were my guesses, and I thought they were so solid because in their trial marriages, that's how people were acting. But then when they get back with their original partners, and I hate to say it, and I hope I don't sound ridiculous, but I don't know who this man is. I don't know who those people were, because those were not the same people I met in the first episode, and they damn sure wasn't the same people from the freaky ass trial marriages. This was a whole new batch. Lexi still wanted to marry Rae. Okay, a shock, but like we discussed, Lexi just wants to be married, so there's that. The hurt came though when I saw Mal turn into a magician, turn into a contortionist, bending over backwards, suddenly being the wife that Yoly always asked for. Who's scared? Who was scared? Because I was scared. Who is this? Okay, let's put a pin in that. Then we cut to Vanessa. Miss No Commitment, No Marriage, No Permanence whatsoever. Miss, and I quote, "You've been so committed to me for so long. Give someone else a shot and see if maybe the connection you have with me is something you can see yourself having with someone else." End quote. Not the same woman who said that, practically shitting herself when Xander followed her instructions. And you know what's kind of karmic about this whole thing? Vanessa didn't get the chance to do even half of what Xander did, even though that's practically the main thing she came for. Like, damn, she didn't even get the chance to fuck around. It seemed Vanessa skipped straight to the finding out. Once Vanessa was informed that Xander was really digging Yoly, literally and figuratively, here comes the bride. Vanessa would have ran to the courthouse the very next day if Xander was down. What the hell? What was going... Oh my gosh. gosh, now I'm angry. Now I'm angry because I just looked at my next bullet point, and the fact that I am about to compare Mal and Vanessa and highlight their similarities, this is off balance. I'm not feeling this. The upset tummy has returned. So Mal and Vanessa, two completely different people. But where their behaviors on this show intersect is they just don't want to lose. Just like Vanessa's dad said, they just don't want to lose. Mal entered this experience with the insecurity that Yoly would come on the show, find someone else, and fall in love so hard that she would be willing to throw away what they built for 3 years in order to pursue something she had for 3 weeks with a stranger. Yoly did not just trigger this insecurity within Mal, it's like she beat on it like a piñata and just watched it explode everywhere. But clearly, Vanessa and Mal being taken for fuck-ass fools was not enough. Having your deals broken, having the worst parts of your intuition validated was not enough for them. But I guess it hurts less than the thought of losing. And it makes sense, you know, you invested so much in this, you're looking for somewhat of a return. You didn't come all the way there just to get pied on international TV. But it already happened. Whether y'all walk away engaged or not, you were already pied. Somebody already took you. I'm sorry. I draw no delight from this. Damn. So with that being said, Vanessa, go give Yoly her soulmate back. Still, no delight. It was just, I'm funny. And Mal, go give Xander their Pookie back. I ain't the type to break up a happy home, but I'll fuck apartments up. It's for the best. All right, now in the end, Mal proposed to Yoly. Yoly said yes. Tiff proposed to Mildred. Mildred said yes. Aussie proposed to Sam. Sam said yes. Lexi and Rae had a joint proposal, which I have actually always envisioned for myself if I ever, you know, if the day of marriage ever comes for me. But anyway, both of them said yes. And Xander and Vanessa broke up that day. To this day, no couple has married yet. In fact, the only couple still together is Aussie and Sam. And we learned all of this on the reunion, which I did discuss with my awesome participants, and that uncensored conversation is up right now on patreon.com/TNoir. Hit me up if you want to see it. And there we have it. That's the show. All in all, no matter what my feelings are about the contestants individually, I have to say, if I was in their shoes, girl, if you would have caught me at the climax of a queer romance, any of them, and put the pressure of marriage on me and the scarcity of a manufactured dating pool and the intimidation of a camera crew to follow me around for 8 weeks, honey, y'all would have seen me on some real goofy fucking goober shit, I swear. So I applaud each and every one of the contestants for their rawness and their openness. It takes a lot to be on a show like that, and then to have to deal with the aftermath of it, yikes. Now, on another note, I don't know if y'all noticed, but I was just a little bit more open this video, a little less reserved. I gave more personal details than I would for a different topic, but it all flowed really easy in this one. Like, nothing was forced. You know, I was thinking about the video before I recorded it. I'm like, yikes, like, do I really want to take it there? Do I really want to spill my own tea like that? But then I remembered that so many queer folk, myself included, for so many of us, this is all we got. It's a miracle that this show, flaws and all, was actually entertaining, and it was backed by such a major corporation that could pour such a huge budget into it and could reach such a wide audience. But even if it was horrible, I think our eyes would still be glued because this is all we got. So I don't want to say that I feel like it was my duty to be less reserved in this video, but it was my pleasure. In addition to my amazing, lovely patrons, a special shout out goes to the participants of this video: Max, Nika, Taria, Bobby, Diamond, Ella, and Sirius. Our conversations were so fun and insightful, and it was just really nice to be in conversation and community with people who were willing to contribute that much. So thank you all so much for participating, and thank you, the viewers, for watching. Be sure to leave your thoughts and your comments down below. Give me a thumbs up or a thumbs down, however you're feeling today, and subscribe for more content. I'll catch you in the next video. Bye.